AWS SQS. AWS SQS has two type of queues. One is standard, the other one is a FIFO. FIFO stands for the first in, first out. With this tutorial, I'm going to talk about major difference between standard and the FIFO queue, and plus I'm going with some of the properties of the queue. For example, message retention period, default visibility timeout sorting for the some of the properties for example for the beginners, and later on I'm doing the demo which integrate queue with a Lambda. Then with this demo, I'm gonna show one of the important points and some of the issues you frequently face with the queue and the Lambda. So stay tuned. And again, if you like my content, please like and subscribe. Let's get in. Difference between the standard queue and FIFO. Let's say you are sending three messages. First one is A, second one B, and third. If we go to the standard queue, it's tried to maintain the order. So when you dispatch those messages, it could end up with the message 3 first and B second and A first, but it's not guaranteed. But if you come to the FIFO queue, if you send the message in order like A, B, C, when you dispatch those messages, it's maintained the same order. It's A first, B second, and third, C third. Like that's the major difference between the standard and FIFO queue. The other one is of course like the standard queue has a high throughput, but if you come to the FIFO queue, it doesn't have a much higher throughput compared with the standard queue. For example, the FIFO queue can handle only 300 transactions. It includes sending and dispatching messages per second. But if you come to the standard queue, it's unlimited. It's in the AWS document. You can have a look the AWS documentation. I'll put the link so you can have a look that. And the other major difference between the standard queue and FIFO is basically once you come to the standard, it's guarantee at least one delivery. It does mean maybe the one message could goes to 2 times. Let's say the standard queue is consumed by 2 different consumers, so both consumer could get the same message. That means a message could be duplicated. But if you come to the FIFO, it's guarantee only one message processed by only one consumer. So that's the best thing in the FIFO. But there are some exception cases. We can go through the in the properties of the queue. I'll show you. But this is in a nutshell. This is the major difference between standard and the FIFO queue. Console. What's gonna do? We will create a new queue, which is one for standard, one for FIFO queue, and let's see how these two queues are working. So what gonna do, you can type in SQS and go to simple queue service, the one that I'm select. Let's say it's end up with here. What gonna do, I am creating a new queue. So it shows the screen shows okay standard and FIFO, and give a bit of brief idea what's the difference between those queue type. So I'm gonna create give it a name. Standard, the first one, and the visibility timeout. Let's go with a quick understanding what are these properties. The visibility timeout, basically, let's say in default is a 30 second. What's going to happen when the message come to queue? It dispatched to the consumer, and the consumer did not respond within the 30 second. Let's say it says I did process or not. The consumer did not respond within 30 seconds, the same message will be available for another consumer, right? So that's the visibility timeout, right? So this could be like the 30 seconds, the 0 to 12 hours visibility timeout. I'll give a link in AWS documentation. You can have a look. So again, the message retention period is the how long you can keep the message in a queue. So this is you can keep up to 14 days. After 14 days, the message automatically will deleted by the AWS. And the delays, delivery delays. Let's say this is basically if you want to keep some delay before it's available for the queue. Let's say the message come to the queue and it's not available until, in this case, 0 second. This is 0. Let's say if we put the 5 second, what's going to happen? The message come to a queue, but it's not available until it's 5 second. In the next 5 second, it's not available. After 5 second, the message will be available for the consumer, right? But default time out is delivery delay is a 0 second. And of course, maximum message size is 256, but yeah, that's the maximum. But you can go with up to 2 GB with a certain condition. Right. The other one is a receive message time. Again, this is about the short polling and long polling on the message. Keep it as this default one, and again you can do the encryption, and plus this is access policy, who can access this SQS message and SQS queue. So other one is of course, like if I go to the dead letter queue, let's say there was one of the message is consumed by some of the consumers, and let's say after 3 times the consumer tried 3 times the message, we can push this message into another letter queue for the troubleshooting purposes, for example. That's a dead letter queue, and the redrive is basically the other way. You can set the one that we are going to create a queue as a dead letter queue. So that's the one, and let's say we will create this queue. It's created successfully. What's gonna do, I'm gonna create another one. If I go to queue again, I'm creating a queue with the FIFO one too, right? Let's say this is FIFO. When you create a FIFO queue, you need to put a dot FIFO in the end. Otherwise, it's not allowed to create a queue. The configuration pretty much same, other than the content based duplication. You can see the two new properties. This is the one you need to, if you want to do get high throughput FIFO on the FIFO queue. This is the one. And content based duplication is basically whenever you send the message, you need to create a new property called a deduplication ID. So that's the one. If you don't need to send, you can enable this one. So this is again scope of the duplication. When you check the duplication of the message, or do you want to check, or you want to check the message group. That's pretty much, this is about the throughput. And again, it's pretty much same thing as a standard. What I'm going to do, I'm creating a second queue too, right? So let's say we do have all both queues are up and running. You can see what we're gonna do. We will integrate with the Lambda. This both queue integrate with the Lambda, and we will send some message, and we will see how to send a message for the FIFO and standard, and some of the main scenario, and some of the pain point with the FIFO queue, and how to handle them successfully. So what I am going to do, I'm going to create a new Lambda. So I'm opening a new window. Right, it should show whatever the existing function. What I'm going to do, I'm creating a new one. So give it a name. It's a Lambda. Maybe I say SQS test Lambda, and set the runtime as a Python, and I'm on the create function. This will create a new function, and then we can integrate with our two queues, plus we will send some messages and see in the CloudWatch. Let's create a function, right? It's create a function. You can see it's with the bare minimum code. What I'm going to do, I'm pasting some code with the Python. It's pretty much same. You can see, so right, so this is the one. What you can see, this one is basically it's a Lambda function. What's going to happen, we don't need to do this. We will see the later on. I'll comment out everything. I just want to print I'm going to print the event. That's all I'm doing. So make sure whenever we send a message, it's get showing in the CloudWatch. So I'm deploying this code. What's gonna do? Then I'm going to integrate our two queues. So I click on the add triggers and select the SQS. So once I click this SQS, we can see our two queues are there. What I'm going to do, I'm selecting the first one and keep the batch size as a 10. This says in the within the same one message when I get the when I call the SQS, it come with the maybe up to 10 messages. I'm adding this one. As you can see, I want to show some of the errors when you do because this says you don't have a permission to access SQS. What I'm going to do, I'm go back to configuration and the permission and click on the roles. So once I click on the role, what I'm going to do, I'm giving some permission to access the SQS. So attach policy and I'm SQS, I'm search the policy and I give a full permission on SQS. This one should have should able to access the queue. Let's say I'm going back, I'm selecting the SQS and select our queue, which is FIFO first, and add, and I'm going to the add trigger again, SQS, and I'm click on the second one, which is SQS standard. The both queue added into Lambda, so whenever message come to the S standard or FIFO queue, and it will trigger, and we can see these call logs in a CloudWatch. So I'll show this, I'll send this all the code in a GitHub so you can have access. So what we're gonna do, if I go to queue, so you can see there are two queues, and what I'm going to do, I'm opening the monitor. If I go to monitor the Lambda and open the view logs in CloudWatch, initially this shouldn't have any logs. What we gonna do, we send some messages into queue, and let's see here. I'm trying to I create a Python program, simple one class Python program. So what does it says? You can see it's get the bottom 3 with the SQS, and this is a queue URL. I'm first sending for the standard, and then using the SQS client, the bottom client, I'm sending the message. So when you send the message, I'm setting the queue URL and some of the message attribute. This is not necessarily you need to send, but the message and the message body is like just a string. In this case, I'm sending the 100, and then I'm printing. So what's going to happen, this one, it's basically send a message to SQS and we can see the message. So what going to do, if I run this, you will see I got a message ID. That means it's successfully sent. If I check the cloud logs, because it comes to the message, it's triggered by the Lambda, and you will see in a CloudWatch. So if I open the CloudWatch for the particular Lambda, if I don't know how to do that, if you go to Lambda and the monitor and click on view logs in CloudWatch, so this should create a file. Yes, you can see, yes, it shows, and as you can see, we can see the message. For example, the body, the one that we are sending the 100, which is there. So same way, if I send another one, for example, if I send a message to the next queue, basically for the let's say I'm sending a message to FIFO queue. If I send this as it is, you will get error. I'll show you the error because it makes sense for you. So if I send the same another message, let's say 200, with the same setup, it should fail, because for the FIFO queue you need some other parameters. So it says, you can see it's a missing parameters, message group ID and the message duplication ID. So if you send a message to FIFO queue, you definitely need to add these two properties. One is a message group ID. The other one is a duplication ID. This is a unique ID you need to send. Right, let's say if I send another one, this one with the yes, it's get created. You can see if I go back to my CloudWatch, you will see the another message. You can see this is the second message which is come from message duplication ID. This is coming from FIFO. Message group ID is a G1, and the body should be somewhere in the like a 200. Yeah, that does work. So right, that's how you send the message to SQS using Python. So other ways is of course you can send a message through here, like for example if you open the actual queue and go to the send and receive message, and you can send the message, for example test message, and you can send this. This is another way. This is using console itself. If I go back to CloudWatch, and you can see the same message, the one that we sent through the manually in the body, let's say body, yeah, test message is there. So I'll make it a little bit bigger, right? So that's how it is working. Now what we're gonna do, let's say we send some message and we the stuck. So let's say for example in the FIFO message, what's gonna happen, I'll show you one of the scenario. What I did, I did change the code a little bit in a lambda. What's gonna do, I'm going to the each record, because the record is a array, and I'm getting the body is in this case our message, and print the message, and I'm trying to convert this message into float. So if as far as you are sending the right integer or float value, it's gonna it doesn't throw error, otherwise it's throw error. What's gonna happen if I send a message to our queue, like I'm deleting the logs because I want to get a clear logs. So I'm clearing the logs, and what I'm doing, I'm getting the go back to our normal queue, and I'm comment out, let's say I'm sending a message something like testing. What's going to happen if I send this message, it's a lambda start throwing error. So because it's a lambda throwing error, you can see let's see, right, the message gets successful delivered, because you can see what's going to happen, then lambda start processing this message, right? As you can see in the logs, you can see it's start processing, and the message is testing, the one that we are sending through the Python program, and you can see the error because testing can't convert into float. What's going to happen, this message, so the message is stuck in here, stuck in the queue. As you can see, the standard queue we sent for standard queue, the message is message in flight. That means someone processing this message. Actually the lambda took the message and it start processing, but it's failed. But based on the visibility timeout, what's going to happen in this queue, visibility timeout is a 30 second. After 30 seconds, the message will be available back to the queue, and the lambda again it's processed, and again it's fail. Basically what's going to happen, the lambda it's keep failing every 30 seconds. You can see the message get fail every 30 seconds, it's trying. If you send a message, what's going to happen, let's see, we will send another message with a different name. Let's say this one is passing, because this one is perfectly, it's okay, 200 we can convert into, I'm sending the same message in the same queue. Let's see what's going to happen. So queue, right, as you can see, still you can see the one message, probably it's got process. If I go back here, and you can see the first message is still processing, and the second one is come, the correct message, it's get processed. It doesn't wait for the first message to process, because first message is failing and keep failing for every 30 seconds. but the message with the correct number, the Lambda can process the message successfully. That's why you can't see the second message here. Right? If you can send another message, it gets successful process and it's deleted from the queue. The queue and the Lambda integration is the best thing is Lambda successful process the message, it's automatically delete from the queue. If the Lambda throw any error, the message will be stuck in a queue. That's the Lambda and SQS integration. Let's see what's going to happen the same scenario if we use the FIFO code. So I changed the URL pointer to FIFO queue, and let's say our group is G1, and what we're going to do, the first message we are sending as a fail. This is definitely failed. Let's say this is a test again. What we're going to do, we send a message. Yeah, message successful delivered. If I go back to our I clear the CloudWatch console, what's gonna see if I refresh, yes, it's fail again with the same message because test can't be converted into float. So what I'm going to do, I'm sending another message which is a successful message. Let's say I'm start with the 500 for the G1. So if I send another message, what's going to happen for the same group, I'm sending for the same group, make sure that this is the same group. Yeah, it's delivered. We can send another one, 501. Right, so it's basically sent 2 messages after first one. So as you can see, you won't see any messages after the first one. Basically we send 3 messages, but you can see the first message, only first message. 500 and 501 you can't see. The reason is because the FIFO queue, it's maintained in the order. So all the 3 messages are in the same group. It can't process the second one before the first one because first one is a failing. It can't proceed with the second one, right? If we send another message to different group, let's say we are sending to different group for this one, say this is 6000, start with 6600. Let's say if I send this message, you can see this message will be processed because this is the different group. So if I send its process, and if I refresh, what's going to happen? Test is still listed. Test is running every 30 seconds is trying, and you will see the second message, which is different group. Right, you can see the second group. So basically, it stuck with the first group, but it's processed the second group successfully. And if I go to the queue, FIFO queue, you will see the sum of the message in the flight. These all 3 messages are in a G1. So if I send another message to a different group, it will process successfully. Let's say this is 700, and if I send this, more likely we will see the 700 somewhere here, but you can't see 500 and 501 because it's a failing. For the first message is failing. So that's all about the FIFO. Like if you want to like, let's see whether 700 is there for quick one. Yeah, you can see the 700. So that's something that's the behavior of the FIFO queue. It's maintaining the order, and if worst message is fail, it's failing. It's retrying every 3rd second. In this case, 3rd second because the visibility timeout. If the visibility timeout is like let's say 5 minutes, it's the same message get retry every 5 minutes until 14 days. After 14 days, it's get deleted. The first message get deleted. The second message start processing. That's the FIFO queue, how the FIFO queue is working. Like, so if you want to get rid of, let's say this kind of scenario, let's say some of the messages keep failing, what you can do, you can use some custom logic to here, and based on the duplication ID or the group ID or message ID, the specific message ID, you can skip and you can return. Let's say for example this message is failing, like you can use some um, custom logic to skip the one that it's failing and proceed with the next the good messages. uh, yeah, that's something you need to do. You can use some environment variable to dynamically handling, not the code changes, of course, or you can use some other sources or database. You can check the database and skip that messages. Yeah, that's something about FIFO and standard queue. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and like if you have any question or comment, please comment below. I'll send this all the code in the GitHub and you can have a look. Finally, yes, if you like my content, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to do many demo kind of tutorial on AWS, so hope it will be helpful. Okay, thank you so much, and see you on next video.